just drawing for the sake of drawing, you can get better, but that's still not necessarily optimal. Alright, what's going on? It's been a while since I did a video like this. I'm currently working on chapter 4 of my comic Infinite Uppercut. I actually have a bundle of chapter 1 and 2 available on my website. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. I'd greatly appreciate it if you did. It's basically a comic book parody of martial arts tournaments and fighting games in a sense. It's always been ridiculous in my mind that the fate of the world in most fighting games are always determined in a martial arts tournament of some sort. So this is a gigantic parody of that. Almost what I like to say is imagine Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, just immensely dumber. So I'm working on the cover right now for chapter 4. Since saying that over the last year I've gotten about I started the year off in chapter 1, started 2020 off in chapter 1. Gotten a lot done so far in this pandemic. In working on the cover of chapter 4, I decided to switch up how I sort of paint my comics or paint my cover. I'll see how the actual comic starts to look, but I don't know. I sort of have a crude look to my art in general, and I guess it's a nice excuse for me to say that, just to allow my artwork to look, I don't want to say sloppy, but it has a certain feel to it, especially looking at my comic because it's very immature in nature and the characters are drawn sort of like chibi-like in the first place. I can get away with sort of the harsh and raw shading, which I do that in general in my artwork because I like to use hard and very basic brushes to shade in my artwork. So the picture pops even though the coloring and the shading in it looks almost thrown together and very like sloppily done. It almost pieces itself together in the way that I do my art. But I don't really want the mixing of the shading and stuff in my artwork is what I'm trying to prevent. So I took a bit of a different approach with coloring chapter 4. Spent like the last week and a half storyboarding for it. But in coloring chapter 4, sort of got inspired by watching a video, and I wish I could remember the title of it, or the channel for that matter. If I can, before I upload this video, I'll put the link in the description. But they were basically talking about how 90s anime is so much more lively looking than the anime of today, which looks sort of bland and plastic by comparison. And it comes down to the color choices that they use and the sort of color palette that they use for shading as well. Particularly Dragon Ball Super was a big one in comparison to just how lively Dragon Ball Z looked back in the honestly late 80s, early 90s. So I sort of took that video to heart and started going back into color theory a little bit, and I changed up my shading style a little bit for my new comic. It already seems to pop just in this one cover that I've done so far. I'll see how the rest of the comic comes out this chapter. But man, it stands out a lot, just me doing what I've been doing so far. And one big aspect of it, and I kind of already knew this, but I sort of cheaply did it. Basically, your shadows, if they're warm, your highlights need to be cooler, or if your highlights are warm, then your shadows need to be cool, vice versa. So I already sort of did that in my artwork to begin with, but I'm lazy. So what I would do is I would sort of I would paint all the shadows with black. I would do all the highlights with white, and then I'd go in and manually change all of them sort of warmer onto the picture itself and go from there. And it's kind of not how that's supposed to be done. So this time I actually did the appropriate way to lighten and darken the highlights with actual colors themselves rather than just trying to play with and toy with black and white. It already looks way better. This is hands down my favorite cover that I've worked on so far for my comic. And I'm gonna try to do this for the rest of the chapter and see how it looks when I'm finished. I've also recently got deep into just sharpening some of my artwork in general and working on a lot of forms and anatomy. I've sort of gotten to the point where people always say, well, the best way to improve in drawing is to draw every day. And that is true, but you can speed up the process a little bit more than that. just drawing for the sake of drawing. You can get better, but that's still not necessarily optimal. I've started paying attention a lot more to drawing shapes and forms to try to improve a little bit better. It's already working. I actually watched another YouTuber. He's done previous work in, I believe, Disney. And I think he's also done some animation work. I could be wrong in that, but he talked about how he advises people not to really use ovals a lot when drawing, and he uses actual shapes, four-sided shapes and triangles to sort of create the forms that he makes in his art. And it sounded ridiculous to me until I actually started trying it out and practicing it. It actually works wonders. Once again, I also tried it for the cover of my artwork, at least on one character in particular, and that one character stands out above all else in my cover. So I'm actually going to just keep trying it and keep drawing that way going forward. But I've already started working on 1 million projects, or at least I have 1 million projects planned for 2020 already. And getting Infinite Uppercut finished is priority number 1. So I want to see just how much of this comic I can get done this year. I got 2 chapters finished in 2020. So I wonder if I can get the whole comic completed or close to it in 2021. We'll see. I also have some interesting stuff coming up soon as far as my comic is concerned anyways. But in any event, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I also hope you enjoyed the making of my cover that you can see in the background right now. So you all have a good one, and I'm out.